Sorry, good night. Good evening. How are you?
I'm
I know it's
great.
late.
I'm great. Yeah, it's good night
I
here.
think you were correct. It is night. What is it like? Is it at midnight in your area now?
It's 1 o'clock here.
1 o'clock. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Good
Gotcha.
night. You do it, man.
Well, anyway, I think we can go ahead and get the party started. We already have approximately like 150 listeners, and pretty eager to hear what you guys have to say. Thanks so much for everyone for joining, and super excited to chat about Fint with Darlene. And
Yep.
we had the same lineup for Q1, and I thought it went really good. Got a lot of great feedback. So I know, Mark, you're very good with all the introductions. So yeah, I'm not gonna steal your
Sure.
thunder. So if you wanna go ahead and introduce our speakers, and we can start the process.
Sure thing. So, yeah, as Max said, same lineup. Thanks everybody for coming again. We have Chris from Value, who runs Potential Multi-Baggers with us. I'm pretty sure everybody knows him. He picked SC very early on, so he's one of the early bulls. So it's great to get his take on the company. We obviously have Anthony here. I'm unsure about his connection since he's at the airport, but he said he was going to let the entire airplane know about SC, so maybe it'll boost the stock price tomorrow. But he obviously runs his own podcast as well, Pounding the Table. And then we have David Marlin, who works for Beth at IO Fund. And I'm pretty sure everybody kind of knows these three people. And you guys really, obviously, a nice and exciting day. I know people were nervous going into this earnings since SC has just been, priced to perfection since forever. So kind of wanted to get your guys' take. Whoever wants to start can start. I think Anthony already got kicked out because of the airport issue. So it might just be Chris and David. But anyway, whatever you guys want to start with, feel free. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, it was a blowout quarter again, and you say that a lot of people were nervous. I actually was not because she has been such a great performer, and even if the market would have reacted negatively, I wouldn't have cared because I have a weekly overview of the week, and almost every week there's a part which is called see the weekly good news, and if you see those fundamentals, and I mean that's the real story, not just the earnings itself. That's a moment, and it's the process which is much more important. So I was not nervous. I had seen enough good things, and yeah, I mean the earnings were really exciting and great to see. I mean, if you look at those numbers, I mean, revenue up 159% year over year. That's it's almost like C starts from a very low revenue base, which is not the case, of course. Gross profit grew 364%. That's that's to almost a billion, 930 million, I think. So and then on top of that, raising guidance for 2021, which was already big for Garena and for Shopee. Then they're two most important revenue sources at this moment. So for Shopee, they see 121% growth for 2021. On top of that, great 2020. It shows that C is firing on all cylinders constantly, and I know the company very well, and still I am impressed by how they keep surprising me to the upside with their execution and their focus. It's really incredible that how they can do that, and I've never seen a company operating at this scale already that has such an incredible focus, except maybe Amazon. And I mean that says some, or at least that last two decades. I was too young to see Microsoft's glory days, etc. So, but I cannot think of another company in the last 2 decades that executes like C does, and these earnings again show that. So, David, it's up to you.
Yeah. I share the same sentiment. I mean, obviously, this was a quarter that was going to be, some high expectations, and they just blew it completely out of the water. So you had Shopee revenue growth of 161% year over year. You had Garena with 167% year over year revenue growth. And then you had C Money with 73% quarter over quarter revenue growth. So just tremendous numbers in all three business segments. Like Chris said, they raised guidance. They raised guidance around 5% on Shopee and Garena for the rest of the year. Total revenue, I mean, grew 30% quarter over quarter, which is, insane at this scale. 159% year over year. And like Chris said, gross profit, 364% growth, 44% quarter over quarter. And I was impressed with the gross margins exceeded 40%, 41% for this quarter. If you look at Q2 of last year, gross margins were 23%. So they've improved that 18 percentage points over the last year, from 23% to 41%. And really the big way they did that was just growing revenue faster than the cost of revenue. So they grew the cost of revenue 84% year over year. But they grew total revenue 159%. So, big acceleration in gross margins. You saw the same thing actually in operating margin. A year ago, operating margin was negative 42% in Q2. This quarter, the operating margin was negative 15%. So again, big improvement on the operating margin.
What do you think the biggest contributor to this improvement was, in your opinion?
Bottom line, I think it's just revenue and sales outgrowing the costs. So, bottom line, like we said, like we've talked about with this company, they're less concerned with short-term profits. But this was the first quarter you really seen. If you look at gross profit growth over the last year, Q2 2020, 106% year over year growth, 101% in Q3, 102% in Q4. In Q1 of this year, 212% year over year growth. And then the acceleration this quarter to 364% growth. Same thing with revenue. They grew revenue 93% year over year in Q2 of last year. They accelerated that all the way to 159%. And that's on the total number. So, great acceleration all across the board on revenue, gross profit. Like I said, cost of sales did accelerate 84%, but that did not keep pace with, how fast they're able to grow their revenue.
Yeah, and I want to add there that that's also what Firstly has always said, and that profitability would come with scale, and also very important was, I think, that Shopee could add a second profitable market or country within Malaysia. So they already had Taiwan, which was already profitable for Shopee, and now they added Malaysia. And it's completely what Firstly has said. They can be profitable in every country where they want, but they first want to scale and then have that operating margin go up, and that's exactly what you see, and I think it's very important, as David said, they don't look for the short term, they look for the long term, and I think their capital structure definitely has to do with that. So I think most people know that Tencent owns by about 30% of Sea, and Forest Lee still has about 25%, I think, something like that. And anyway, it's more than half, of the company, and together, and that means that they really can look at the long term, and they don't have any outside investors who want fast money. So I think that's very important to notice here. I mean, it's still crazy for people who cannot think of how crazy this is and how exceptional this is, what Sea and Shopee is doing. You have to know that Shopee only started 6 years ago in 2015. I mean, that's bonkers, right?
Yeah, one other thing that stood out to me, just going over their P&L statement, is when it comes to expenses, we've just touched a little bit on revenue and gross profit margin. All numbers were great, but when you look at sales and marketing expenses, increased from 386,000 all the way to 921,000. I mean, a million. It's pretty impressive how much money they put into growth and just trying to advertise all over the place. It's pretty amazing, if you ask me.
Yeah, and when they, a lot of that, they don't break it down, but I would venture to say that a lot of marketing is coming from Latin America, where they've, in Brazil, they launched Shopee in late 2019, and you're seeing the execution already. So Shopee ranked first in the shopping category by app downloads and total time spent in app, and they ranked second by average monthly users.
Did they mention who was number one?
I believe it was
Mercado.
it was Mercado Libre was number one for monthly active users. That was just in Brazil.
Yeah, I remember they mentioned on the call that it's still early stages when it comes to Shopee in Brazil, and the take rate is still very low. And but the positive side that when it comes to monetization, advertisement adoption by sellers increasing quarter over quarter. So sellers increasing their ad spend on the platform, which I thought it was a pretty positive sign.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to throw in, I'm curious. So obviously now everybody knows, right, how good SE is. Everybody sees this as the future company. There's not a person on FinTwit that isn't long this company at this point. So from your guys' perspective, I mean, obviously they keep beating and raising and wowing, and everybody's impressed. Like obviously I was today. I was not expecting such a huge beat and raise, but I mean, what do you think moving forward? Do you guys continue to see them? Obviously they're going to execute on all cylinders, but are you starting to worry about peak comps because Southeast Asia is probably going to start opening up now, kind of like the U.S. has, or like how do you see it moving forward? I'm just curious.
I mean, I have heard that before. I mean, Southeast Asia has been open for a while. There have been some restrictions again, sure, and but it's not that everything is locked down now. So that's one thing I want to add. Another thing is, if you look at the numbers, it's also crazy. And hat tip here to Ernest Kaplan, who tweeted this out. And I looked into it a bit further. And if you look at the last year, Sea's stock price is up 150%, 145, something like that %. And if you look at the price to sales ratio, it's about 20 to start with. It goes up, it goes up, it goes up to 27, 28. Then the next earnings, bomb, it drops again to 20, and it goes up, it goes up, it goes up again, it drops to 20. So if you look at this, each quarter.
I just
Yeah.
posted it if you want to look at it. I just posted at the top. I found it. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so it's amazing to see that. You know, it's up 150%, and you know the price to sales ratio is still still the same. I mean, that's crazy, right? Mostly you would expect multiple expansion there, but you know, it's not what happens right now. And you know, something else I wanted to highlight. I haven't checked it now. It's one of the things that I look at. If you look at Shopee and the marketing margin, so the how much they spend, you know, that was much more. I think it was around 100% in at the end of 2018 or early 2019, and it's now somewhere around 50%. So and yeah, as David said, you know, they're spending like crazy now, especially in the Latin American market, but also on C-Money, because they you know, they do huge cashback operations to do the same thing as Mercado Libre has done with Mercado Pago, which is you know, push their solution. Whoa.
Oh,
Hey
I
guys, can you
guess.
hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, man.
I got a quick question. Did anyone see the numbers for Latin America on revenue for Shopee?
No, they don't split it out.
That's what I would love to see, because I actually saw the page number views on SimilarWeb, and from the last month, Shopee was actually better than the previous month. So kind of to answer Mark's question there, I think the next quarter will be even better than this past quarter. I know that sounds crazy, but
It sounds almost impossible to believe. It's like at this point, right? It's
here's what you got to
crazy.
think, though. Here's what you got to think. They guided previously for 9 billion revenue. The number's almost darn near 10 billion now. I would not be surprised if we get over that. So what you have to think is, right now we got some picking up to do to even get there. That's 2.5 next quarter and like 2.7, 2.8 in Q4 just to hit the estimates.
Yeah, I will continue where I was. So so what Shopee is, or is trying to do now with C-Money, is they're trying to, you know, push it offline, you know, to make people use it, you know, in a store and wherever they can. And if you look at Mercado Libre, Mercado Pago, it was you know, now offline use has overtaken online use, and that's very important, because that market is much bigger. Of course, if you go, you know, if you compare your own e-commerce platform with all the rest that is offline, you know, that's a much bigger market, of course. And if you see, I get quite a lot of pictures from multis, so my subscribers who are you know, in Southeast Asia, and they send me pictures at the checkouts. There's a cashback if you use C-Money to pay. So I'm pretty sure that they're investing heavily there as well. So to you know, to push that offline use of C-Money. And one of the things that they did there was in Malaysia, for example, they have been working with the government to you know, to distribute aid and to promote digital payments in general. Everybody who you know, who opens a mobile wallet on Shopee Pay gets I don't remember in local currency, but it was something like, you know, $35, which if you compare it, that's about 5% of a monthly income, which I think really incentivizes people to open that wallet and to use it as well.
So do you think with the momentum that C-Money is gaining right now, they potentially could enroll it in Brazil and Mexico as well at some point?
I think so, but it's still extremely early. If you look at the revenue contributions, they don't split out the revenue of C-Money, but they give the total revenue. They give the revenue of Garena and the revenue of Shopee. So you can just subtract that, and then you get.
I just to chime in there real quick, I actually have the revenue number on C-Money. It was 89 million.
Well, I wanted to
Yeah.
say if you subtract that, it's 100 million about.
It's about 4% right now in Q2.
Yeah, I think it was even a bit lower.
Would you attribute that to a lower take rate? Because the TPV at 4 billion is relatively high, even compared to like Mercado Pago.
Yeah, indeed, Mercado Pago had 7 billion, and indeed they take that lower take rate and those cash backs also. And yeah, at this moment they just want cash backs. Then I mean, of course that has nothing to do with revenue, but so with those cash backs
let me ask you this
and
question.
those low take rates, they want
Do you think
to
that
be
they
in
can,
everybody's pocket.
do you think they can add some sort of gamification aspect to C-Money to integrate through the other two?
I don't think they need it. I think just the same seamless way of doing business that they have done with Shopee, and they remove all friction. That's what they have learned from their games. They know how to incentivize people to use something, and then they become paying users. They really love it, and that's what they did with Shopee. There's not really gamification. There is gamification, of course, on Shopee, but I mean, I wouldn't say that gamification as such is the big differentiator. It's really
So
the
you don't
total.
think that's what's bringing people back to the platform? The good experience brings them back, but that aspect brings them on.
Sorry, I didn't get a question.
So you think that maybe the idea of the promotions and the bonuses bring them onto the platform, but the actual good experience is what's keeping them on.
Exactly. So
I'm with that, man.
and the gamification can help. For example, in the huge number of downloads in Brazil of Shopee had to do with Free Fire. It's the biggest game there as well. And if you downloaded Shopee, you got free skins and what have you. So of course, quite a lot of gamers downloaded the app, and that's they are really building out a whole ecosystem. And C-Money will definitely be a big part of there, and it's indeed it's really crazy to see that they already have 4 billion in TPV compared to Mercado Libre's 7 billion, and revenue was 98 million for C-Money, while it was what was it again for Mercado Libre? It was about a third of their total revenue, more than 500 million, I think. So
yeah, it was around 550 billion, I do believe, on Mercado Libre. So it just shows that I think that Shopee C-Money has a great opportunity here to monetize eventually. Just like you said, they don't need to yet.
Indeed.
Chris, you keep referring to cashback options, and it sounds like sort of like a credit card here in the States. I'm not familiar with the financial system in the Southeast Asia or any other area there. Do you think it somehow helps their users build a credit score or no? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, credit score is something typically American. So you do not have that internationally, or not, to the same degree.
No, or any kind of score kind of incentivize them to use this platform, which could help them
It's quite
You know what
simple.
I'm saying?
If you pay with C money, you get, you know, I don't know, $2 back, or you get, you know, I don't know, 10% back or whatever.
Right.
I think just as Mercado Credito has shown, kind of what C Money could eventually do once they become a bank in all these countries and regions is start to provide loans and use their activity on the app through all the different platforms as a basis to provide these loans, almost like an internal credit system through themselves.
Yeah.
I think the AI can help with that, kind of like almost like what Upstart does.
Yeah, and on top of that, there are a lot of people unbanked or underbanked in Southeast Asia, and you know that's a great driver of C money as well, because you know they can use C money as their bank then at a certain moment. Once, you know, it's still very, very early. I mean, this needs time to completely, you know, grow into what it can become, but you definitely see the signs there.
Do you see this company still as early innings? Obviously, they're like 150 billion now, but in terms of like, obviously Amazon had peak comps and they missed this quarter, but in terms of like the amount of people underbanked, not using e-commerce, just getting into gaming, I mean, how long can you see this runway going before we start seeing stuff like that? I'm just curious from your perspective, because all of these countries are still emerging, right? So I'm just curious. Yeah.
I mean, I've never seen a company written 1 trillion plus market cap all over it as I have seen with C, and I think it can still be a 10-bagger from here easily, and more. I think, you know, they are very early in their you know, internal company cycle. You know, C money is still, you know, still very early. Even Shopee, I mean, if you see it's just 6 years old, then you know that, you know, a lot of more growth is going to come, and that is accelerated by the development of these countries where they are in. So yeah, I mean, sure.
The world has never seen a beast like this before.
Yeah, are we at the point where they are becoming anti-competitive already, even though it's so early and there's no chance for any competition? I'm just curious what you think there.
There's competitors for sure. I mean, Tokopedia poses a pretty big threat in Indonesia. There's obviously Lazada and a couple other competitors, but I think it's just clear right now that Shopee is kicking their butt.
Yeah, well, they are the number one in, you know, all the major markets, except for Tokopedia is still number one in Indonesia, which should not worry anybody, because it's a huge market, and even if they would remain number two, which is possible,
that market size is massive.
It's incredible. It's incredibly big. Yeah. So even number two will get a lot of revenue from Indonesia. It will always remain the most important market in Southeast Asia.
Yeah, here's the thing. I mean, if you look at the development of these countries in terms of where they are from an e-commerce standpoint as compared to more developed countries, you know, you look at Southeast Asia and they're still a good 10 to 20 years behind where the United States is at this point in terms of e-commerce penetration. And, you know, the bet is that eventually they will get there. You know, same thing with the fintech segment and C money. To Chris's point, you have 50% of Southeast Asian adults are underbanked. An additional 25% are, 50% are unbanked, and an additional 25% are underbanked. You know, so that's 3/4 of Southeast Asian adults. And, you know, C Limited, they were awarded the digital banking license in Singapore. They're going to get right into this industry and, you know, try to fill that need for people.
You said 50% does not have a bank still?
Yeah, and this was as of the end of last year.
Like 5%, my guess.
Sorry, what was that?
It's crazy. What's the U.S.? 5% unbanked, maybe, if that.
I think I've seen the stat somewhere. Yes, it's around 5 to 7%.
yeah, I mean,
Here's what you guys have to think. If there's 1 billion people in this addressable market and 50% of them don't have a bank, so 500 million, that's more people than in the
it's
entire
second
United
inning
States,
still.
literally in itself.
Right.
So we don't even know what could happen here.
Yeah, well, and to David's point, if you look at the e-commerce market in the US, it's in 2020. I looked it up for an article I'm writing for my subscribers. Is 861 billion in e-commerce. If you look at total Southeast Asia, it's 62 billion. If you look at Latin America, it's 60 billion. So it shows how incredibly early it still is. So, and those two parts of the world have over 1 billion inhabitants and growing fast.
From Value, what's your revenue estimate for next year?
Hey Chris, did I hear a question? I think Staka was asking.
Sorry, I broke up there. What's your revenue estimate for next year from Value?
Oh, I think I answered, but maybe my microphone was out. So I don't work like that. I mean, I haven't looked at that yet, and I don't work like that in that sense that I always wait, and
I understand.
it's just the last thing I do actually, and it's very important to. One of the things that I always keep repeating is the compounding of revenue beats, and if you see that, that's incredibly powerful. So now it's revenue beat by 30% versus the consensus. So if you look at how that compounds, that's incredible. And yeah, I mean, a revenue for next year, you can do a fairly good estimate then, but if you take the year after that, it's already much more difficult. And if you did take the year after that, it's almost impossible already with a company like Sea, which which beats so much on revenue.
That's exactly what I was getting at there. I was trying to hear your thoughts because it just some rough math. I mean, if we double revenue next year to 20 billion and then the same thing next year, we could be looking at 50 billion revenue 2 years from now. At a 20 times multiple, that's $1 trillion company, like 2,000 per share. So we could have a 10 bagger in as little, I think, is 24 to 36 months on this one, depending on what happens.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that growth will continue. I think it will come
Exactly,
down
yeah.
at a certain moment. It has to, it's impossible. But I think it's extremely difficult to project here. I mean, especially with Latin America, because we don't know the revenue there exactly and how fast it's growing, etc. So. Very, very, very difficult to make projections.
Do you think they'll focus on profitability next year or wait even longer?
No way, they won't.
I agree. Let's keep growing.
Yeah, sure. That's what they should do, and that has always been the plan. Grow, and then at a certain moment you have the scale where you have that operating leverage, and they hire their take rate then, and they have said in Latin America their take rate is, they didn't say those words, but I will say them, ridiculously low, just to get as many sellers or merchants on board as they can. So
do you have any updates, or either of you, on the food delivery and the AI? I know it's new, but I'm just curious, anything that you know of?
yeah, well, David, go ahead.
Go ahead. I don't have any updates on that.
Sorry, David, I was trying to tee you up. Okay.
All right. So yeah, as usually, Shopee is not a company that overpromises. It's always, oh, we don't have anything to communicate about that. They just said that food grows very fast and that they don't have an announcement to make about a new company, a new country yet. So that's how they do it.
Has anyone heard in this chat ever before C Limited mention cryptocurrencies and or Bitcoin? I don't think I have.
Not to my knowledge, honestly. I have not heard anything else. I don't know about you guys.
No,
Do you think it's coming?
I would assume it almost has to. I mean, you have to think with Square, Tesla, Mercado Libre, like all the big companies are. It would seem to fit their profile pretty well with depreciating currencies as well.
Well, it's maybe in Latin America it's different, right? Because of especially in Argentina, where Mercado Libre is from, inflation is very high, and then Bitcoin can make more sense. C is not there yet, and I think it's the main reason that Mercado Libre looks at Bitcoin, because it's really Bitcoin is seen as a stable coin there.
It'll have to be a part of the ecosystem. So you think that because Southeast Asia doesn't necessarily need it as much, C is late to jump all into it? I could agree with that.
Yeah, well, they just don't have to. I think without the high inflation in it's especially South America, yes. I don't think that Mercado Libre would have already joined the club.
Well, I mean, one of the key things is just like I said, 50% are unbanked in Southeast Asia, and 25% underbanked. And underbanked, basically includes just having a bank account, no investment account, no insurance, no credit. So basically, you're talking about only 25% or so of Southeast Asia at this point actually has an investment account. So I think we're still a little bit a ways from that. I think they have some growing to do in the meantime. But eventually, I think cryptocurrency will be part of C money. I just don't know, when it'll happen.
Yeah, I think at this moment, for a huge majority, I mean, probably, I don't know exactly, but for a huge majority of users of Shopee, I mean, it's like if you would try to explain Bitcoin, it would be like explaining Bitcoin to 90-year-old. I mean, there will be people understanding it, sure. I don't want to underestimate 90-year-old people, but a lot of them won't be interested. And as David says, a lot of people are still unbanked, and just being able to pay digitally is already a huge step for them. I mean, they're not interested in Bitcoin yet, so I think C shouldn't focus on it right now. They have enough other things to do, and maybe later.
I'm pretty surprised. Well, 40 minutes in right now, and we haven't touched anything on Free Fire or Garena in general. It's pretty impressive. I know. But I was just curious if there's anything else that stand out to you guys when it comes to Free Fire. I know they put up some amazing numbers, billion downloads, and what do you guys think about this department?
Right, I think
especially expansion to India. It's pretty interesting.
I think that's the first game to get 1 billion downloads on Android for a what is it, like a Fortnite type game? Is that right?
Yep, indeed. So multiplayer game.
Do you
or a battle royale? That's actually what
right?
I was.
I couldn't think of the word either. Do you see this expanding over into the iPhone, or is it still like? Do you see it getting big in the U.S., or is it not? Your thoughts there, or is it just not going to happen?
Is it number 2 in the US already or not?
I meant like iPhone users. I know Android, it's big on Android, but in terms of like iPhone users, which is more so the big spenders, I'm just curious if they have any data on that. I don't know if they do.
So it was the second highest grossing mobile game on Google Play, but in the US, it was the highest grossing mobile battle royale game for the second consecutive quarter. So I think you will see potentially expansion into the US, but I still think, their key markets, Southeast Asia, Latin America, India. Again, Free Fire was the highest grossing mobile game in Q2. I think you're going to continue to see that at least through, it's lasted longer than I think a lot of people would even expect at this point. And like Max said, the expansion into India, it was the highest grossing mobile game in India in Q2.
Crazy.
So obviously incredible numbers on Garena.
Yeah,
Did they mention any new games? I don't know.
No, they never communicate that until they launch. So they never talk about the pipeline.
I guess it's a good thing that Apple and Fortnite got into a feud too. I mean, that only helps us, right, as shareholders, because I think it's still not on the iPhone, is it? I don't know if anybody knows, but
I'm not sure. Probably Stockhead knows.
oh well.
Yeah, I don't
I-
spend that much time gaming, honestly. Maybe Chris knows.
I think it is, but I'm not 100%.
When does Undawn, the new game, come out? You guys know?
They don't communicate about that. So that's
I'll do some research tonight and I'll put a tweet out. There's a new game called Undawn that Garena is going to drop under Shopee or under Garena and Sea Limited. I'm going to have to get some information on that.
I think that comes from an acquisition. Am I right?
I remember reading something about it a while ago, and the release was supposed to be this fall. So there almost has to be an update. I think, kind of piggybacking off the previous question too, I think a massive opportunity for Free Fire is going to be the metaverse. It's something people aren't talking about or thinking about yet, but Sea Limited has a massive op to really take on Facebook with launching multiple games in their own platform, I think, eventually.
It's one of the things I had already written in the article that I'm writing. I mean, it's the buzzword of this earnings season, it seems. Metaverse. Everybody's talking about it, but if you look at what C has, it has a lot that really could build that metaverse. They see Free Fire as a platform. They don't see it as a game. They see it as a platform. Why? Because it's a social game as well. And that's one of the, I get a lot of questions. Oh, but isn't Garena, isn't it vulnerable because of Free Fire? Well, people underestimate how social this game is. And you don't want to let down your friends, right? So, I mean, I was a teacher for 15 years. I'm not talking about, Free Fire right now, but those pupils, 15, 16, or students, 15, 16 years old, they game every night, and they say, well, at 8 o'clock, we are going to attack together, in whatever it was, Fortnite or so. So they really form teams, and they know people all around the world, just like we know each other, right? We talk to each other, and they do the same thing, but for gaming then, and it's a whole
like a world.
Social thing.
Yeah.
I personally think that Tencent is getting a little bit nervous that they might miss out on the metaverse with all the Chinese crackdown, and would not be too surprised if they go all in behind Sea Limited and Garena to really push that out.
Yeah, that could be. I mean, but so to continue there, so Free Fire is already a platform with the social elements. They have communication there as well, of course, and then you have you can shop and on Shopee, and you can pay with C Money, and if you then look at what they're doing with their AI labs, that can be really interesting, can become really interesting, and then they have even talked about hardware there, so taking the other side of Facebook, first software and then hardware. So it's I mean, I think a lot of metaverse mentions are a bit laughable, but in this case, if you really think about the metaverse and you think about C, you can see that it's positioned perfectly.
Yeah, one of the game they mentioned, I think, in the earnings report, it was like Moonlight Blade Mobile. I don't know if you guys familiar with this game. They released it in June in Taiwan. Never heard of this name before, but seems like it doesn't matter what this guy's releasing, it's gonna just keep expanding and exploding.
Yeah, but you also have to know that they are a platform for a publishing platform. So they publish games of other companies as well. That's what they started out with. Free Fire only came later then. So
They did Call of Duty too,
that's-
right?
sorry.
They published Call of Duty in Southeast Asia, right? Isn't that right? Also.
Yeah, indeed. But they have published in this quarter. They have published a game called Pet Rebel, and that's a social game again with virtual pets, a bit more for children, and it's the pets from Free Fire. So they're taking that intellectual property there, and they expanded, and they're trying to form a universe. You can already see that now.
So they're building the Roblox now for the next generation, essentially the younger generation, or that's their goal, something like that. Yeah.
Well, Roblox is still a bit different, but
You know what I mean? Like focus targeting more so younger people, because I'm sure Free Fire is more of a teenager game or whatever. So yeah.
Yep, that's what they do.
Yeah, they've been talking a lot about the esports engagement overall, that they think is gonna exceed the physical sports engagement, and they just keep growing. This esports is gonna be very, very big, and I think they're well positioned to benefit in this area as well. I don't know, we've already been talking for about 15 minutes. I don't know if you guys have anything else to add, or we can open a Q&A session from the listeners. I'm not sure how long you guys can stay here.
Do you guys have anything negative to add? Or, I mean, you don't have to, sorry. If you want to say, David, go ahead. I feel like, go ahead. Anything you want to add, sorry.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to add just on the growth rate. I mean, eventually, inevitably, you're going to see it slow down from 159%, like you were talking about peak growth. But like I mentioned, where they kind of are in the industries, and where the countries are, I think, like I said, 10 to 20 years behind probably in terms of e-commerce, even more in fintech. So, you will see the growth rate slow down, but I think over time they can, if we're thinking about 2025, 2026, like 5, and more years out, you're going to I believe you're still going to see this company growing above 20% year over year on the revenue number. By that time, I think they will be profitable on EPS. I mean, actually, analyst estimates are projecting them to be profitable on the EPS number next year. So I'm not sure, if that will actually happen, but by 2025, I think, of course, you're going to see the growth rate will have slowed down, but just like Amazon, I think you'll continue to see this company grow 20, 30% every year. And it's just going to be the industry growth that's going to be the catalyst. Of course, they're in the dominant position in gaming, e-commerce, and they're positioned that way for fintech. So even if you don't see the huge triple-digit growth rates going forward, you're still going to see consistent growth, throughout this decade. So that's what I wanted to add on that.
It can be an anchor for your portfolio moving forward, basically.
Right.
I wanted to add something as well, which I think is very important. And people don't often see this, but what C is doing extremely well is go into every country with a single strategy. I mean for that country, it's not we're rolling out everywhere in the same manner. For example, in Java, which is the biggest or the highest population part of Indonesia, island, I think it is. They partner with schools there, and they courses in vocational courses for related to Shopee are included in the curriculum, so people can work in the warehouses, for example. That's an example. In Singapore, they're a sponsor of the university, and they get they can and they sponsor not just the university in general, but the AI. And it's not AI, but the people that study what is it called? I'm not that great at tag. So what you have to study if you want to work in AI, well, that's what they help financially, and of course those people can also come to see and get an internship there, and that's how they get great talent in a very easy way. That's another example. In Vietnam, they have a Shopee Farm, which you also mentioned on the conference call. So it's selling and promoting agricultural products. So on Shopee's platform, and you can go on and give dozens and dozens and dozens of examples of what they do in each country. Specifically, they look really well. What can we do to help the people here? And it comes back to us then. So I think they're doing a great job there, because they really help the communities, but it's also in their own advantage. Great.
Yeah, I just saw among listeners, James Booth just popped. He does a great job covering C Limited. So, James, if you would like to share any of your insights, feel free to request to speak. We'll love to hear your take as well.
And then that's a good point, I think, is that you're kind of saying that they're more thoughtful about their growth approaches versus just growing at all costs. So obviously that's going to be good for the long term. So good point there. Gonna open it up. You want to open it up to speakers now, Max?
Yeah, I see
Yeah.
you just added John Oliver. John, can you
Yeah,
hear us?
John, if you want to ask your question or talk, go ahead, man. I think you're on mute.
Yeah, man. Hey, thanks for all the chatting here, and I totally agree. I was just kind of curious what you guys think, and I think you were just talking about this a little bit. With they're somewhat insulated from China, and kind of your thoughts around that. And they do have some connections with China and a lot of Chinese firms. And will this seem to maybe be a problem in the near future, as the Chinese tech is getting regulated heavily right now?
Yeah. So obviously Southeast Asia completely different than China, but they have the ties to, I think the big thing is just the ties to Tencent, who is the biggest shareholder. I want to say Tencent owns over 20% or so.
I think it's like 30.
So,
yeah.
So 30%, 25% or something like that. So that would obviously be a major risk. If Tencent for any reason has to start liquidating the position or start trimming the position, it could put pressure on the stock. But just in terms of what's going on with these Chinese tech companies, I don't think there's any correlation between that and C Limited. But I think the big risk is just what Tencent is going to do with their stake.
Well, I don't even see that as a risk. I mean, unless you're short-term oriented, of course, then as David said, it could put pressure on the price if Tencent is forced to sell or so. But for the rest, there are no ties with China, so no exposure in that market or so. Except with Tencent and the games Tencent provides.
Yeah, and then I have nothing really to add there besides I feel like I feel like the Chinese equity pain is kind of coming to a close. At some point, it can't keep falling, right? I mean, some of the major Chinese tech companies are down.
Do we have an idea of how many
Oh,
funds
all right.
in China own Sea Limited? Kind of like what that
He does
distribution looks like?
He does it every time.
But yeah, as I was saying, like Tencent and Baba, we're down 30 to 40% at this point. How much? I guess it could keep falling, but at some point, the pain has to stop. So I don't know. I don't really see it as a risk. I know SC got caught into a headline at one point and was down 6 or 7% in a day based on the Chinese headline, but it doesn't really. It's at all-time highs. I don't think it's really a problem, So. But yeah, go ahead, Stockhead. I don't know your question.
Yeah, I think Stockhead has a question as well.
Do you guys ever see Shopee expand into the U.S.?
Not in the first decade or so.
Yeah,
But I'm not sure if they will ever do that. They have, their strength is that they can go into markets that are not really completely developed yet and still very early in, with infrastructural problems even. And they are really, really great in figuring that out. US is a completely different market, Europe as well. So
I totally agree.
Do you see them building out a social media platform for these emerging economies and countries since they're building out all these platforms? Just curious.
Well, they have some form of Slack actually. So they have a tool. They have a lot of those, smaller initiatives, and they test it out in different markets, etc. And sometimes you never hear about it, and they kill it off. So they have lots of experiments going on there. Could they? I think the social media platform will be Free Fire actually. So I think and. Yeah, of course. That also they're broadcasting the esport competitions, and that's quite social as well. So yeah, I can see some form of social media, but not as we know it.
Yeah, I agree with Chris. I think the social aspect will. I think they'll continue to build out Free Fire in that social aspect. And then with Shopee expanding into the US, I don't see it happening. It would be something completely different than anything they've done, going into a country that's, already extremely developed, of course, and then having to take on Amazon, Walmart,
What you have
Shopify.
to think, though, is Mercado Libre ships in one day across a lot of South America, and Shopee is able to come in and really go at them right away. That was the only reason that I thought that I'm not saying it is going to happen or it could happen, but I just wanted to hear people's thoughts.
Yeah, the only thing is that I see Mercado Libre. Of course, Latin America is still very much developing in terms of e-commerce. So I think like what you've seen from Sea Limited is kind of following Amazon's blueprint. I don't think they would want to take on Amazon. I think they kind of want to follow that blueprint in terms of getting into any developing countries and working from there.
I think we have Falcon. Is that how you say it? Sorry if I got your name wrong.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Did someone?
Hey, yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, we
Go ahead, man. Do you have a question?
No, I just wanted to say something about stock market and trading and everything. Like how are you guys all doing? You guys are making money, or is the market really getting on your back, or what?
Well, C
I'm
was
not
up
sure what
today.
Yeah.
And it's
he
by
just
far
disappeared.
it's by far my biggest position. well, I mean,
Are you at the point where
question.
you're going to keep letting it appreciate onto his point, Chris? Because I know you. I mean, I've been letting it run, and it's getting uncomfortably large at this point. I mean, it's just how do you feel about it? I think you're going to let it run, right?
Yeah,
Mark,
I will
800 shares.
I will even add.
It's not enough.
Yeah,
I think anything under 1,000 shares is not enough.
well, that depends on the total size of your portfolio, of course, but yeah, I mean, I still want to.
A lot of posts that I personally see on Feedaway today is that like, oh, I missed on the run for C Limited. It ran too high, and I think I'm just gonna try to find another C Limited. What do you guys think about this point?
I mean, you can say the same thing about all the FANG for the last 7 years, and everybody continues to be wrong on every single one. So it's.
If you have such high quality, you should never sell. It's as simple as that. As I said, the stock price is up 150 or 145% in the last year, but the price sales ratio is the same. So, I mean, that says something, right?
Yeah,
totally agree.
I think that's a common mistake to make in the market. Winners usually keep winning. As long as the company's executing, I'll obviously continue to hold it. And it's a 160 billion market cap right now. I mean, we've talked about the potential of it reaching 1 trillion. So, there's still a lot of upside.
My point to that is right now we're trading at roughly 15 times this year's sales. If that's too high for you, what are you going to wait for on 100% growth stock per year? What is Shopify traded at? Never below 30 or 40 times. You have to pay for growth.
After I'm curious, Tahir, after this big run after Meli reported, what is the multiple right now for Meli?
So Mercado Libre should do around 8 billion this year. I think maybe as high as 9, but 8 billion times 10 would be about 80 billion. So you have to think if you put Mercado Libre at 15 times your 8 billion sales, that's going to put you at around 120 billion or so, which leaves upside there too.
It's about 50% upside.
The argument is though, always the argument is 15 times sales too high to pay if we're on the other side of growth, which I'm not going to get into that argument, but personally, I'll pay that all day long.
I think V has a question. Sorry. I think that's your name. Venkat. I just added you as a speaker.
V, can you hear us?
Oh, he dropped.
Yeah, it shows that he's a listener.
Oh, he's requesting again. Sorry. Go ahead. Oh. See if you connect. Yes.
I think like when I turn on my mic, I don't know, for some reason I'm not able to hear you guys. So what my question is like, do you have a recording of this whole thing? I mean, sometimes we are not able to join on time.
Yeah.
That's my question. I'll switch back to listener now.
Yeah, we'll post it in the next couple of days on Spotify, and we'll tweet out a link. Anybody else have any questions? There's nobody asking a question. I'm just curious. Anybody have anything to say? Anybody wanting to get something off their chest? Bullish, bearish, anything? Challenge these guys a little bit. Oh, there comes two right now. I think, Dean, you were first if you want to go. Dean, or you there, Dean?
Yeah, Mark, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Just wanted to thank you guys for hosting this. C is my biggest position, and had a feeling they'd blow it out today. I was a little nervous going into it, but they came through as we expected. One market we didn't mention yet is the Philippines, which I know is in that overall market we've talked about, but I've got some friends over there, and they've just told me that Shopee's just grown like wildfire there. They're constantly on it. They talk about how addictive it is, and that was one of the reasons I had even more conviction than usual. Just hearing the end user experience over in Asia, just how many people are using Shopee and how pervasive that's becoming in people's lives now.
Yeah, and I really like what you say that about the addictive aspect, because that's what Shopee does very well. I mean, they have games, and you can, get coupons if you win, and they also have, social or TV, sorry, Shopee TV, which has high numbers of hours being watched. I have not checked it now. If it was in the earnings call, I don't remember, but and mostly they share that around the big festivals, Singles Day, so in November, for example. But it's I have a number of 2 billion hours in my head, so it will be something like that. So in that kind of order. And in the Philippines, by the way, they also mentioned Pure Gold, which is a big supermarket chain in the Philippines, both online and offline. And they have a partnership now with C-Money, so you get incentivized to use C-Money there to pay as well.
Yeah, indeed. I think that's a good point that you bring up, how excited people are to use Shopee. I mean, just being in the U.S., I definitely have Amazon fatigue, and it's good to hear that everybody's still excited, and it's still so early innings for e-commerce, and just the emerging economy. I don't even really use Amazon anymore; just my fiance does, so it's just funny.
Yeah, my one friend said that he had to delete the app. That's how much stuff he was buying off it. So,
cool, man. Thank you. And then I think we have Brimo and then Clay. I don't want to take up all your guys' time. I know it's like 4 a.m. for you, Chris. So sorry.
It's just 2. It's just 2. Don't worry.
I feel like you're always tired on these. Brimo, yeah, go ahead if you want to.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you guys for having this again. I was listening to the earnings call for Sea Limited earlier today. I was a bit put off with the fact that they didn't really want to get into too much details with Brazil. I think that was the only thing for me that I kind of knocked about the earnings report, that they didn't have those numbers for Brazil. But what are some of the things that you think that is preventing them from getting deep dive and providing that information to the investors?
They never do that. Why do they do that? I mean, they don't want to. They say I'm pretty sure that once that Brazil has a big share of their revenue, they will share it. But as long as it's not big, they don't share it. That's how they work. As long as it's not substantial, they don't break it out, because they already share a lot, right?
Yeah, so they don't break it out, but what I can share in Brazil is that, like I said, the app ranked first in the shopping category by downloads and total time spent, and the app ranked second by average monthly active users for Q2.
Yeah, and third, if you look at the preference of e-commerce shoppers in Brazil. So after I'm not just talking about e-commerce, but very broad e-commerce, so food delivery, etc. as well. So iFood was number 1, Mercado Libre was number 2, and then Shopee already. So I mean, you can see the progress and everything. So they don't even have to break out the revenue numbers.
And Shopee launched in late 2019 in Brazil. So like Chris said, I think eventually they will break it out. But right now, just starting out, they don't want to do that, and that's fair.
Yeah, I remember seeing the app downloads for Shopee in Brazil, and just how it's a vertical line in comparison. And I mean, catching up to Meli quickly. So I know that was interesting.
And that was
it seems like the only downsides are ship times, really.
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, that was the number of downloads went up so fast because of what I said, the integration with Free Fire, where they try to convince you to download Shopee. If you download Shopee, you could get free skins and other perks.
Cool. Thanks, Brimo. Clay, anything you want to add?
Hey guys, thanks for hosting this. Really enjoyed listening the past hour. It's been really fun, really good day, really good earnings report. And, I saw someone tweet today, I dare someone to tweet the bear case for Sea Limited. And as I'm listening to this, I'm kind of thinking, okay, what are some people missing on this? Are they thinking the stock price is too expensive relative to what else is out there? Or is there some other bear case that maybe you guys haven't mentioned yet?
Yeah, basically from what I read, the analysts don't believe that Free Fire can keep growing at what it's growing at and fund everything. That's really the only bear case that I'm seeing. Maybe Shopify expands a little bit more into Southeast Asia, but like they mentioned before, it's going to be hard for these people to go full-fledged e-commerce when they're just starting with it now.
Yeah, another. There was an article in I don't remember exactly. It was an Asian newspaper which said that Sea had to split off Shopee because they had to focus on making money. So I found that very funny, and it was a respected. Well respected.
Let me ask you guys this: are you a little bit nervous if Coupang or Pinduoduo enters into Southeast Asia?
I'm not. I mean, Coupang is great for South Korea, and that is also because they have a specific circumstances there. They're now going.
Right, they are going to expand into.
Yeah, that's what I said. But that's what I wanted to say. But there are the same circumstances there, but that's the only other country in the region. And the same circumstances means that it's highly densely populated, and that's always an advantage for an e-commerce platform. But Sea has Indonesia is a, if you look at it from a logistic point of view, it's a nightmare. I mean, Indonesia is just a big collection of islands, thousands of islands.
Right.
So, but they have that market already, and I cannot see Coupang or Pinduoduo go in there and grab Shopee's market share.
Unless they do the same thing with aggressive Facebook, TikTok marketing, spending like $1 billion type deal. I'm right there with you.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at what they did with Lazada, Lazada was the clear leader in all of those countries, and they completely dethroned it, right? Almost not almost everywhere.
My favorite part about that whole situation is they stole like half of the Lazada employees as well.
Classical Amazon, Walmart, right?
Yeah, I think
go ahead.
I think for a new company to come in and dethrone Sea Limited, with the brand that they've built at this point, would be extremely difficult. Coupang is, the threat of new competition is always a risk, but I just think with what Sea Limited has built, with the position they're in, I don't see it as a major risk. That doesn't mean if Coupang comes in and you start to see the numbers, affecting Sea Limited, then that's something to revisit. But at this point, it's not really a concern for me as an investor.
I wonder how much group buying Shopee is really offering, because I know that's what's like launched Pinduoduo is. It's almost like a Groupon type concept where once they get a certain amount of buyers on a specific product, they'll cut the price at a lower level to everyone.
Yeah, I think they're experimenting with it, but it's not rolled out in full.
I think in a price conscious market, that will be absolutely massive.
And then Adam, do you want to ask a question? Adam, you want to ask a question? I got 2 more left.
Hey guys.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, I'm just a little wary of China right now. I was wondering about exposure through Tencent and what you thought of that.
We have already answered that question. Maybe you should listen to the recording.
Yeah,
I will
listen
listen
to
to
the
the recording. Apologies.
I think most everyone wasn't really concerned unless, Tencent has to liquidate their position, but I don't think anybody really had that on the top of mind as a problem. As you can see, like SE's at all-time highs, so nobody really cares, at the point.
Got it. I'll check the recording. Sorry.
No
thanks.
problem. And then Alvin, I think we'll wrap it with Alvin, and then any final thoughts. Yeah, go ahead, guys. Sorry.
Yeah, some questions on C Money. I think that was one of the exciting things I saw in the earning, because they broke it out. It was like, I think, 89 million this quarter, which seems to be a huge jump from previous quarters, right? Right now, it's like probably less than 5% of the revenue. If you look at Melly, right, it's 30%. Do you see like C Money can grow into that like percentage of revenue in like a couple of years?
Well, I'm not sure if it will get to the same percent, because Shopee is much bigger, because it's both in Southeast Asia and in Latin America already. So as a percentage, no, but I think it's all about the take rate. It's all about the take rate. And now at this moment, C just wants to get Shopee Pay, as it is called in most countries, into everybody's pocket as fast as possible. And then once they roll out, the loans and all other things that you can do as a bank, because they already have some banking licenses, then at that moment in a few years, I'm pretty sure that they will do the same thing as they have done with Shopee, that is raising the take rate and then become profitable in that way. That's how they have made Shopee profitable in Malaysia now, and it was already profitable in Taiwan. But it's a very low take rate in Brazil, and they're doing exactly the same thing with C Money. They're charging a very low take rate right now, but over time that will definitely go up. But it will take years. So if you look at Mercado Pago, it has taken a very long time there as well. I think C will do it much faster, but I think you will need at least 5 more years to see it as a really substantial part of revenue.
Yeah, I agree with Chris on that one. I'm not sure you'll ever see it on a percentage basis get to 30%, just because of where Shopee and Garena already are and still growing. But right now, 89 million in revenue this quarter. I would pay attention mostly to the growth rate. 73% growth quarter over quarter for C Money. Total payment volume was up 20%, 21% quarter over quarter, and 150% year over year. And so I would just pay attention to the growth rate for now. It's still under 5% of revenue, but I think anything that it's still basically a new business. And so anything it can provide over the next few years, it's just going to be a huge bonus.
Yeah, just looking at how like Wall Street undervalue like Melly, right? Because they didn't see the financial arm, right? I think like it's probably the same thing here. It's 89 million from almost nothing, and you annualize that, and next year's growth rate, it could be easily like a couple $100 million to $1 billion.
Well, I think it's definitely the ace in the pocket that C has.
Okay,
Absolutely.
thanks.
I think another ace in the pocket coming over the next few years that a lot of people don't consider in e-commerce are delivery robots and self-driving cars. Also, profitability will go absolutely insane once those happen. AI with C Labs is going to make it happen.
What are the most recent news that you heard about AI Labs? It's been a while since I heard anything.
I know Chris
Well,
has like
it's
fortune cookies of information.
I mean, it's still very early. It was just launched. Was it last quarter officially, or the quarter before that? So they're hiring and launching. And don't forget their VC arm as well. So they have already invested a bit. I don't remember the company.
Yeah, I was about to say, can you please remind me the names of the companies because I just can't think of any.
Anything exciting or like actual, decent investments, or is it mostly small scale right now?
It was quite small, I think, but I'm not sure. I didn't know the company. I've written about it, but it was quite small. It was nothing earth shattering. But it's interesting what they do, and I think their VC will
Yeah.
grow over time as well. But I don't see that as a really big part of my thesis.
Right.
Not at all.
It just kind of is like sprinkles on top and solidifying how good of a company is in the long-term thinking, I'm assuming, with you, right? Yeah.
Hey guys, remind me, do they offer any buy now pay later services? We've been talking a lot about this in the past couple of months about BNPL. Do they offer this option as a payment? Shopee.
I don't think anybody.
Do you guys know?
Are there?
I couldn't hear the question. You were.
He basically asked if they do any buy now pay later. Like, obviously, it's getting future in the U.S. Is that like a thing they're getting into, or?
Again, it's a completely different market. Right? It's still so early, and it's not necessary now. I'm pretty sure that they will think about it in 5 years or 7 years or whatever. But it's still so getting people a way to pay digitally. So
yeah, I think you bring up a good point. Is that they can pretty much replicate and or make their own version of things that were successful in the West and stuff that was big 10 years ago, and then get into that later on. So they have a good roadmap moving forward for even if it's buy now pay later in the future, or if we're talking loans 3, 4, 5 years from now. At least they have a good building block because they can see how the West did it and kind of build that into their systems and platforms in the future. But yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, I think before buy now pay later, they'll I would expect
Whatever.
them to take a
Go.
I was just saying I would expect them to, especially with the digital banking license they have in Singapore, get into the loan business before buy now pay later. But that would just be my thinking on that.
So it is offered already. I got to look into it a little bit more tonight and see kind of how it's doing, but it looks like it's offered in Malaysia, and it's actually offered in some of the South American countries already.
Buy now pay later or loan?
Buy now pay later through Shopee Pay. Yeah, it's through Shopee Pay, which is integrated with the Shopee platform.
I guess they're way faster than we thought.
So basically when you go to check out on Shopee in these certain areas, you use Shopee Pay, kind of like you would PayPal on eBay or something. And you can do buy now, pay later. I got to look into it, though, and see kind of what the payments look like and some more info, but it's super exciting.
I tested buy now, pay it later. Like, I was bored with PayPal. It's really easy, and it's, like, very simple. I mean, it was kind of interesting. So I could see it being big, yeah.
Especially if these people are hurting for money. It makes it easier to spread the payments.
Cool. Max, anything?
I think this is a wrap, and unless anyone else have any other closing remarks.
David or Chris, anything else you want to say final? I'm sure you're happy. I know that.
I'm really happy, yeah. And I'm excited for the future.
Yeah, no, me too. I'm happy. And, I saw these results today.
Hey, guys.
I was just like, yes.
This has me so pumped. I swear, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make a Discord group.
All right, David.
I'll post on my chat. I'll make a Discord.
David, go ahead. David, go ahead.
Did you just mute?
I had to. I kicked you, Socket. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Socket.
No, I was just saying, when I saw these results, just as a shareholder, very happy. Added to my position today. So this is the type of execution you want to see. There were high expectations going in. They raised guidance, on Garena and Shopee. So, all around A+ quarter.
Cool. Maybe we'll see you guys.
Yeah, I think that was a success. I think, like I said, you guys did a great job covering all the areas, and everyone is excited, and everyone is the happiest shareholders, and look forward to see what's next.
Yeah. We'll see you guys next quarter, hopefully, and maybe Anthony won't be on the plane, so he can talk more so Garena and be our hype man. But yeah, thanks a lot, Chris and David, for coming. I appreciate your time as always, and look forward to seeing you guys again. And then David, actually, I have one final question for you. Why isn't Beth covering this company yet? That's all I kind of really want to ask.
Yeah, so I'm not working for Beth anymore. I'm not with
Oh, my
IO Fund.
bad. Sorry.
But I will say that I did cover the company while I was working there. So I'm not sure if they're still covering it or not, but I will say that I did cover the company while I was working there.
Sorry, where'd you move on to so I don't mess that up next time? My bad, man.
Yeah, so I'm working for myself right now.
Awesome.
Independently.
Cool, dude. Okay.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for your time, and chat with you
Thanks,
later.
guys.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you for doing this.